Hi, Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. The holy grail, if you will, for wood turning is the hollow form. Now think of a hollow form as being a chunk of wood revolving at high speed, and you take a bent tool and jam it in there and hope to hollow out the inside. Now never mind that you get a catch on the inside of that. It may blow up your bowl, blow up your shoulder, your arm, whatever. Well, how about another way to do a hollow form? How about a segmented hollow form, complete with the narrowest opening that you could ever imagine or ever want in a hollow form? So how about an easy way to do a hollow form? Let's make it.
For a solid turning, I could simply mount a hunk of wood on the lathe, start turning, and let the shape emerge. In contrast, segmented turning must start with a plan. I'm using PowerPoint. I've drawn a grid on a master layout, then on a slide I draw my shape on top of the grid. Having the grid on the master avoids accidentally selecting a grid element when drawing. After drawing the shape, I overlay rectangles with my expected segment cross-section. In PowerPoint, it is possible to specify the exact width and height of the rectangle. From this overlay, I estimate the outer diameter and segment width that I'll need for the hollow form. This I enter into a worksheet, which then calculates the segment length for each ring. This one will have 5 rings, each with 8 segments for only 40 pieces of wood, plus one small plug in the base. The cutting angle is 22.5 degrees. Then off to the miter saw to cut the segments. I always use a piece of wood to hold down the segment instead of a finger. My fingers are not a renewable resource. I try to always cut the long side against the fence. This is especially important with very short segments that may tend to tilt on a very tiny side. To glue the half rings, I lay out a double layer of masking tape with the sticky side up. After placing the segments on the tape, I tear off the ends that tend to get in the way. Then spread Titebond Original Extend on the segments and clamp with a band clamp. I purchased these long band clamps at an automotive parts store. These have a screw mechanism that tilts up for quick adjustment so that I can use a long clamp for very short pieces. I'm using small bolts as spacers between the half rings. After the glue dries, I'll sand one face of each half ring slightly so that it will sit flat. No need to be perfectly flat. I'll do that later after the ring is complete. Then, with the flat face down, I'll sand the mating surfaces for the final glue joint. This eliminates the accumulated error from cutting angles, the twists and turns of the wood. Finally, I glue the half rings into full rings. After the glue dries, I'll sand one face perfectly smooth. I'll tool the other side flat and parallel on the lathe, since right now I don't have access to a thickness sander. Now with the top ring mounted to a wood faceplate with hot melt glue, I'll round it off just a little, then true the face. After making sure the face is flat, I can glue on the next ring. I've mounted the next ring to another faceplate with a couple of dabs of hot melt glue. The faceplate has concentric rings drawn on its surface to help position the ring on center. Then I can use the tailstock to clamp the 2 rings together. With this glue joint dry, I'll rough trim the top section. More importantly, I'll true up the face that I'll glue to later. Meanwhile, I followed the same process to build the bottom section of my hollow form. This is where I appreciate multiple faceplates. Since I make and thread my own wood faceplates, I can have as many as I want in any size that I want. Now I've switched over to the bottom section of the hollow form. I'll do a rough hollow now just to get the interior uniform. I don't want to do very much of the interior until I'm sure of the exterior shape. At this point, I still have the upper and lower sections separate. I'll reverse the top section onto the tailstock with a cone center on the live center. I'll tool the two pieces together with only tailstock pressure while I establish the exterior profile. Now with the exterior completed, I'll hollow out the bottom section. My gouge works good enough for this task. Then switch to finish hollowing with the top section. Finally, I can glue the two sections together. The tailstock supplies the clamping pressure. With the hollow form now glued together, I can refine its exterior. But I have to be careful. I know I have about 3/8 inch wall thickness on the sides and a little bit more on the top. That'll be plenty. I'll use a gouge both in cutting mode and in shear scraping mode, whichever feels right at the time. With the timber sanded through 400 grit and walnut oil applied, I'll part it off from the faceplate, aiming to be just a little concave on the bottom. By the way, I had glued the base section to the faceplate with standard yellow glue. I'll clean up the bottom by mounting a small sanding disc in a Jacob's chuck and sanding off any remaining marks. I usually do this in a drill press, which is safer than using the lathe. And voila, a completed hollow form without any catches or shoulder injuries. No blind tool work. It has a smaller opening than I've ever seen in SolidWorks. In fact, I drilled it out a little more so that it can receive a flower stem or whatever. What possibilities do you see? Please click the like button on this video and subscribe to both my website and YouTube channel. Always wear your face shield. Until next time, this is Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns.